When Tony Hetheridge embraced a new career, private investigator, the welcome had been less than rapturous. In the run-up to hanging out his shingle, as it were, he'd interviewed a handful of London PIs. Most were emotionally situated somewhere between disgruntled and despairing. One had told him flat out, "It's a dirty business, mate. Life's too short, especially for a bloke with one foot in the grave." Fortunately, Tony, who'd recently turned 61, no longer gave one foot in the grave rubbish a second thought. By his reckoning, his full plate of responsibilities required him to delay the onset of decrepitude until 93, and death itself until 108. He had a young wife, a grown-up daughter he barely knew, an adopted son, brilliant and increasingly cheeky, a challenging brother-in-law with whom he'd gradually achieved détente, and a myriad of other friends, enemies, hopes and dreams. So he'd kicked off his professional second act with gusto. The case had concerned a pair of brother-sister twins, one dead, the other vanished. Getting to the complicated truth of what had befallen the twins had been a stunning success. It also nearly got him killed. Tony's police career had been long, distinguished, and physically uneventful, with a couple of near misses but no life-threatening injuries. At the outset of his PI career he'd narrowly escaped death, but was beaten so badly he almost lost an eye. A period of recuperation, quiet, and reflection had been essential. It had been ugly. It had been tough. Nevertheless, Tony believed he'd processed the event. Was it because he'd killed his adversary? Because he'd literally cast him down? Perhaps. The evildoer who'd tried to annihilate him, Kate, Henry and Richie, plus his friend and colleague Deepal Bhar, was dead and gone. Perhaps that triumph had permitted Tony to attain a minimal safe distance, emotionally speaking, from the worst of the memories. The same could not be said for Kate. It was the 6th of December. Tony and Kate's first wedding anniversary, 25th December, was coming up fast. He wanted very much to mark the occasion, as well as Christmas Day, with optimism, with a feeling of moving forward, if at all possible. Plainly put, he wanted to see the back of Briarshaw, his ancestral estate in Devon, and not come back for a span of anywhere from 12 months to the rest of his life. That was possibly an overreaction. Tony and Kate had been married at Briarshaw, in the great house's tiny chapel, with fresh-cut evergreens and fairy lights twinkling from the hall. As old heaps, surrounded by hills, hedgerows and sheep went, Briarshaw was tolerable. Translated from English understatement, tolerable in this case meant pure heaven. The original plan had been to return to Devon in mid-December, meaning next week, and mark the happy occasion where they'd tied the knot. Then the rooftop, as the family euphemistically called it, had happened. The rooftop had changed everything. It had even landed Tony and Kate in Devonshire in May, 8 months ahead of schedule, for what felt like an endless recovery. 2 minor surgeries for Tony, 3 orthopaedic boondoggles for Kate. After an extended relationship with St. Thomas Hospital, retreating to the country had been the best possible medicine. Briarshaw had swiftly become a haven, a spa, even an extended family getaway. And, so Tony believed after months of observing his wife, a sort of delicious limbo for Kate, unencumbered by challenges or traumatic memories. In Briarshaw's drowsy green grass, watching rose-gold clouds gather behind a 300-year oak, Kate had rested. She had allowed her body to heal. But even the best medicine can turn toxic if taken too long.